Hi, welcome back. Let me describe a student I've seen many times. She's bright, she works hard, she's done the practice tests, reviewed her mistakes, gone through the material thoroughly, and she's scoring somewhere between 1380 and 1450, which is a genuinely good score, but it's not where she wants to be. She wants 1500, she wants 1550, and no matter what she does, no matter how many more hours she puts in, that ceiling just won't move. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. Because I want to tell you something that nobody else is going to tell you today. The reason you're stuck has almost nothing to do with what you know and everything to do with how you're thinking. In the next few minutes, I'm going to explain exactly why the last 100 points on the SAT are so much harder than the first 400. I'm going to show you what the SAT is actually doing at the higher score levels because it changes and most students don't realize it. And I'm going to give you a clear, concrete direction for what you need to do differently. Not what you need to do more, what you need to do differently. So let's get into it. The first 400 points, getting from say 1000 to 1400, are essentially a content problem. You don't know a grammar rule, you learned it, you got those questions right. You weren't comfortable with quadratic equations, you practiced them, you got those questions right. At this level, the SAT is, broadly speaking, rewarding knowledge and familiarity. Study the content, do the practice, and the score responds, it goes up. That is why conventional SAT prep works reasonably up to a point. Flashcards, formula sheets, grammar rules, practice problems, all of that moves the needle when you're building from a lower base. Essentially, getting from 1000 to 1400 is a content problem. But something changes around the 1400 mark. And here's what changes. You've already learned most of the content. At 1420, you know the grammar rules, you know the algebra, you know the geometry. There isn't a dramatically large body of new content waiting to be learned that'll push you from 1420 to 1520. So why aren't you scoring 1520? Because the SAT, and this is the insight I want you to really sit with, the SAT at the higher levels is no longer primarily testing what you know. It's testing how precisely you think. It's testing whether you can read a question and understand exactly, not approximately, not roughly, but exactly what is being asked. It's testing whether you can avoid the traps that have been very deliberately placed in your path by the people who designed this exam. And it's testing whether you can do all of this consistently under time pressure for the entire duration of the test. That is a fundamentally different challenge from learning a new grammar rule. So, let me put that down on the board. Getting from 1400 to 1500 plus is a precision problem. In my experience, students who are stuck in the 1380 to 1460 range are almost always making one or more of three specific errors. Not content errors, process errors. The first of them is what I call approximate reading. At lower score levels, reading a question approximately, getting the general gist of what it's asking, is often good enough. The right answer is usually clearly right. But at the higher levels, the SAT writes questions where the difference between the right answer and the best wrong answer is extremely precise. One word, one qualification, one subtle distinction. Students who read approximately get these wrong, not because they don't know the content, but because they didn't read carefully enough to see the distinction the question was actually drawing. The SAT rewards exact reading, not fast reading, not approximate reading, exact reading. So let me put that down once again. Error 1 is approximate reading. The second error is falling for what I call the attractive distractor. The people who design the SAT are extremely good at their jobs. They know exactly which wrong answer a student at the 1400 level is most likely to choose. And they put it right there, looking plausible, feeling comfortable, practically begging to be selected. These are called distractors. And at the higher score levels, the distractors are very, very good. The student who scores 1520 has learned to be suspicious of the answer that feels immediately obvious. She asks herself, why is this answer here? What is this question really testing? Is this the answer the SAT wants me to choose? Or is this the answer that's actually correct? That distinction between what feels right and what is right is worth a significant number of points. So let's put this down. Error 2 is the attractive distractor. The third error is inconsistency under pressure. A student scoring 1420 can often solve in practice the very question she gets wrong on test day. I've seen this countless times. She reviews her test afterwards, looks at a question she got wrong, and says, "But I know this. Why did I get this wrong?" The answer is almost always the same, because test conditions, the clock, the pressure, the cumulative fatigue of a long exam caused her to rush, to second guess herself, or to lose the precision she has when she's working calmly at her desk at home. The last 100 points require the ability to perform at your best, not when conditions are ideal, but when conditions are exactly as demanding as they are on SAT day. So, let's go ahead and put down the third error. Error 3 is inconsistency under pressure. Now, here's what I want you to understand about all three of these errors. They are not academic problems. They are not solved by studying more content. They are solved by learning to think the way the SAT thinks. The SAT is not a random collection of questions. It is a very carefully engineered test designed by people who understand exactly where capable students make mistakes and who build those mistakes into the exam deliberately as traps. The student who scores 1550 is not necessarily smarter than the student who scores 1420. She has simply learned to see the exam for what it is, to read its logic, anticipate its traps, and respond with precision rather than with instinct. That is a learnable skill. It is not a gift. It is not reserved for a certain type of mind, but it requires a different kind of preparation than most students are doing. So, let me bring this together. The last 100 points on the SAT are hard because they require something different from everything that got you to where you are. They require precise reading, not approximate reading. They require understanding how the SAT constructs its traps and choosing not to fall into them. And they require the ability to perform consistently under the exact conditions of a real exam. These are the things this channel is going to teach you. Not just content, though we'll cover all of that rigorously, but how to think, how to read the exam, how to approach every question with the precision and clarity that separates a good score from a great score. So, in my next video, I'm going to take this idea that the SAT is testing something deeper than content and apply it directly to the math section. I'm going to show you what the SAT math section is actually testing and why seeing it clearly will change the way you approach every single math question from this point forward. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe so you don't miss it. And if this video gave you something useful, something that reframed how you're thinking about your preparation, drop a comment below. Tell me where you're currently scoring and where you want to get to. I read every single comment. I'm Narain, and I'll see you in the next video.